Before the heart attack, I very rarely went to the doctor at all. I was not a smoker. I was not a drinker, you know, an occasional beer, that was about it. Went to the gym all the time, healthy as can be.
Growing up, my dad was like one of those guys I never thought like anything would happen to. Like he was always that like Popeye type of guy. And just crazy, like anything can happen to really anyone at any time.
Just they say if it's in the genes, it could happen. And you know, there was a history of, you know, heart problems in my family, and I was the chosen one.
John's first heart issue occurred back in 2012 while unloading gas containers for his generator during Hurricane Sandy.
I went to take one of the jugs out of the back of my pickup truck, and it felt like it was stuck to the bed of the pickup truck. And I said, what the heck's going on here? My youngest son, he was 14 years old at the time, was here. I didn't tell him what was happening to me. I just said, hey Kyle, let's take a ride to Nanny's, my mother's, who lives within a half mile of Rahway Hospital.
I heard him talking in the kitchen prior to this, saying to my sister that he was having a heart attack. But I thought it was like another one of those like cry wolf situations.
I got the car, I pulled in front of the house, waited for him to come out.
And then it wasn't until we were driving down St. George until I was like, oh man, something's going on.
All the while my symptoms were getting worse and worse and worse.
We were coming up to the turn for the hospital, and I noticed he kept like making tight grips on the steering wheel and like trying to grab real hard, and then he would let go and then he'd grab real hard.
I was at work, it was Sunday morning, and we had no phone service. The cells wouldn't work. You had to go in the middle of the parking lot to get the cell phones to work. You could get text messages, and I was up in my office and the phone kept ringing and ringing, and I'm like, he knows he's got to text me, like he can't call.
It wasn't until we were like just within range of the hospital that I heard him say, I was actually looking away, and he was like, I think I'm passing out. And I looked over at him, I watched his like eyes roll back and his entire body just kind of like went limp.
I work in a supermarket, so I was in the office and they called me down, and Rahway Hospital had sent the police to come get me because they couldn't get through.
You know, my instincts were to find help as soon as possible. I quick made a sprint right into the hospital.
So I kind of just floored it from Edison to Rahway, and carefully.
Yeah, I sprinted right back to the car. I saw my dad there. Then that's when I started doing the CPR until the paramedics showed up.
Took me and gave me, you know, the catheterization and put 3 stents in. I had a big blockage in my artery. They call it the Widowmaker.
When I got to Rahway, which I'll never forget, they met me out the door, like to get me in right away. And they had John's cross, and the nurse said for me to put my hand out, and she put his cross, put his cross in my hand, and she said, when you walk in this room, you're witnessing a miracle, because we've all witnessed a miracle today.
Since 2012, John has had other heart issues, including a heart blockage in the summer of 2016. John found that there is more to cardiac rehab than just the physical recovery.
Originally, when I went to rehab, was the same as you. I was afraid in the beginning, but the more I got into my exercise routine, the more I looked to the next day going back to rehab.
Today, John visits the RWJBarnabas Cardiac Rehab Center to help others get through the cardiac recovery process.
I know they're scared because I was scared, and I try to talk with them and you know, introduce myself. What I would recommend is a good checkup they say every year, but I think people should go a little more often as they get older.
Been 4 years. We take one day at a time. We just appreciate every day, and we don't look for any problems or anything's going to happen. We just know everything's going to be okay, and we move forward.